right, everybody, we have the Online League Series, otherwise known as the OLS, number 12 from this past weekend. So I had an awesome time casting, as always, with Boulevard for this. Awesome tournament. If you guys haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. Link will be in the description below to the Discord if you do want to go ahead and join and sign up. The Discord, you'll see all the notifications in the future when tournaments are open for registration. So definitely check it out. It's been a growing tournament as of late. Lots of awesome players in it, including this time around, What Am I, which is the previous Fight Night winner from this last Friday. So good to see some awesome competitors in this tournament. As always, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works, and today we are going to start off OLS with round 2, and we have Gavone versus Seu Cristo.
I like how there are no 1-mana 2/2s in this deck.
No, there's not. No,
I was started this conversation in the first place.
I was using it as an easier example to compare Pocket Aces and Pale Cat. Whatever, we're going into the game. Jesus. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
We put out caster rails, and all of a sudden SJW gets a big head. He's like, I can talk about things too, and just gets himself in a circle of now Cascade and Pocket Aces are similar, and that's why Demacia is a boring region and only has a 1-mana 2/2. See, thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
Pat knows. Pat knows in chat. See, I was just stalling. See, that was the 10-headed play. I'm just stalling until the game starts. So I give a lecture. It's fine. So it looks like we are going to see this Lee Sin deck first up, though, versus aggro. So we'll see if the Lee Sin deck can stave off some of this early aggression.
So it looks like, and I don't want to, how do I put this? I don't mean anything by this in a negative connotation, but it looks like Seu Cristo has just net decked What Am I's lineup. Because we do see the Nocturne Endure, and then we also see that one of Captain Farron in this discard aggro that What Am I did break out last night. Farron, not super standard in the discard aggro, but it is something that we could directly attribute to him.
Oh God, you used that evil word. How dare you?
Attribute?
No. Yeah, that's the word.
Funny enough, like attribute is something that we say. So like, maybe you just got, I don't know, screwed up by me saying attribute versus attribute.
No, unfortunately. No, net deck, man. You knew what I meant. Don't lie. Net deck is like the evilest word on the planet for Yu-Gi-Oh! Come on.
There was there was some tweet that we were all retweeting the other day where it's like hating net decking is not a personality trait.
Oh, I remember that actually.
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh man. All right. Well, speaking of net decking, we have the Draven, and I still don't like Draven's biggest fan personally, but I mean, hey, it gets you Draven, and it seems like everybody is in agreement that Draven is a pretty crucial, integral part to this deck strategy with these spinning axes, and we can see here why that is. This is a huge vision here, being able to get rid of both of these Eye of the Dragons. Let's see if we
make it rain.
Oh. Yeah, no, make it rain. I was going to see if he actually used the twin disciplines. But...
Oh my gosh, he just loses both Eye of the Dragons.
Yeah, that's a little... That
doesn't feel good.
Well, and what's a little crazy there is that we also had 4 mana, so it's not like we were tapping out a mana, so it's a little bit mana inefficient to not play the twin disciplines there and save one. But it looks like we're just valuing having it for the Lee Sin here to go in with Challenger and start removing something like this Draven.
I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? We had talked about how hard it can actually be to get 2 spells down in the same turn to buff up the Lee Sin. I would imagine Eye of the Dragon going to play pretty similarly in that regard. Mm-hmm. And I guess the one bigger concern that I have is that you're down to 14 HP after losing both Eye of the Dragons, and now you're even going to lose this Lee Sin. This is what we were talking about. This seemed to be the critical weakness and why people bring the Targon over the Bilgewater. You don't have these gems to get these easy 2 spells in a turn, and even disregarding that, there are just no 1-mana spells in the deck generically. If you have 3 mana, you cannot get down Barrier onto your Lee Sin.
All right, but we do have Twisted Fate red card, which I imagine we'll see here. The other thing too is there are 3 copies of Tasty Fey Folk. That is a card, and it's a very good card for a deck like this, which does seem to, I guess, struggle with this lifesteal. Like you said, not really having the greatest Eye of the Dragon pulls here. We could even get. Okay, no, we are going to go with the red card here, and I think you do have to do this. Just worrying about something like Vision or anything else getting discarded. If your opponent has anything that's going to allow them to kind of utilize going wide any more than they already have, then you're going to be hurting. And it looks like we are just going to have to sacrifice our TF here as well to avoid taking 5 damage to the dome. This is not looking good for Gavone.
Now, is that a second TF in his hand, or is that just a pick a card?
Second TF.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Well, this deck, we actually have to ask that because there are 3 pick a cards main decked here.
So he still doesn't have removal for the Jinx, which, I mean, kind of is what it is. He's played a little risky, so okay, now he technically does. If you want to like gold card, kill your TF, and then red card again.
Yeah. Wow. Drawing all 3 TFs early. This is pretty insane. Even the deep med feels kind of bad. Just you're never gonna get it for 3 mana. I don't feel like we have all the tools in the world right now to go with the long game. And, we can refuel our hand. We have Salvage. We have Deep Med. We even have Deny for, a big spell to come out of Seu Cristo. I imagine it's going to get used on a rocket at some point. But it just, nothing to really deal with the board right this second as it currently stands, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, and I don't know that Gavone even has anything in his deck that can necessarily kill this Jinx outside of using 2 ETBs off of your Twisted Fates. So I am a little surprised to see him go for the blue card. He is, going to survive this turn pretty handedly. Does have the, deny for this. Get excited is still going to get that pulled to the side by this Flame Chomper's next turn, but at least you get that off the board. Depending on how things work out, because I do think that Seu, it's not out of the question for him to open with this Augmented Experimenter to clear the Twisted Fate out of the way.
Would you have attacked with the TF there?
No, because it gives my opponent too good of an open attack, I think.
Well, we have the stun though. So we could have got the damage down and then played the other TF with the red card to kill the Jinx.
It is a little... I mean, I don't think Seu Cristo would have blocked with the Jinx.
I don't think so
Especially
either.
Because there's pocket aces in the deck.
Yeah, exactly. So if that's the case, then
well, I guess maybe after
trade.
the fact, after the Get Excited comes down to 0 mana, maybe you throw out the block, but I don't know how much that 2 damage is going to matter. I think you're either killing this Jinx or you're not. And honestly, I'm not seeing a great way for him to get it done.
No, and it's so weird because you're like, all right, do I play picker? It doesn't really matter what card you play in your hand at this point. You just need to find something. And okay, Lee Sin is a start. The problem is, again, there's no 1 mana spells in this deck, and we've only seen 1 Steel Tempest so far as the 2 mana spells are concerned. And it's going to be hard to give Lee Sin Barrier, and I think he's going to need a second playable spell to give Lee Sin Challenger and Barrier next turn to have any sort of chance at coming back in this game. Wow.
No, and yeah, he's just going to take a rocket to the face this turn.
Yeah.
This is not... I mean, this is how it worked out when Seu Cristo played a little greedy, and actually we could have had 1 more rocket down. Instead, we did hang on to the Augmented Experimenter, and now we find Captain Farron just in time for turn 8. And depending on what we draw here, if it's, a spell that costs 2 or less, like this Rummage, I don't think there's a world where we can get a rocket and play Farron.
So you actually mentioned, you snuck it in there, mentioning Captain Farron. I know that's one of the reasons why you probably mentioned the net deck from What Am I, because I know that What Am I also brought the Captain Farron there. So what are your thoughts on throwing something like Captain Farron in this deck all of a sudden? Because it was not in this deck previously, and the deck was already doing well.
I mean, I think that Farron came out in some of the, early I don't want to call it, early discard aggro. It's kind of weird because discard aggro has been around since the beginning. We just called it Jinx Draven back in the day. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we actually made the switch to calling it discard aggro, but I'm always fine running, a 1 of Farron in those decks because, you're going to run into situations where you can just play it for 8 mana. You do find yourself in this late game scenario. It is just 1 more out for you to play towards on your top deck as opposed to just the Jinx and the Experimenter. You don't need refuel when Farron can be that refuel for you. And then, of course, worst case, you just discard it. We are seeing so much more discard in this deck than we ever saw before now with the Poro Cannon.
Yeah, Poro Cannon. Oh man, I just love that this card is even a thing now. So speaking of Poros, it looks like Pat did win round 2 by default there. So hopefully we'll see Pat later on because we hear there's a Poro deck in the midst, and wouldn't mind seeing a Poro deck. What tournament? It was a PCS tournament, wasn't it? That we actually saw Poros do well with Aurora Borealis and Lux.
Yeah,
yeah. That was an exciting day.
There was PCS. Orbmeister has picked up a previous OLS win with elusive Poros.
Elusive Poros. Wow, I love that. Oh boy. But on to War Mothers now, and going up against They Who Endure, this is not a bad hand, I gotta say. I mean, this is going to be able to allow Gavone to ramp right into an early Trundle. We even have the Avalanche to clear any early threats that might come out from Seu Cristo. Things are looking good so far.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you open with a turn 3 ramp into the turn 5 Trundle, you're going to feel pretty good. Yep. No Alpha Wild Claws, though, so no follow-up on 6 like that. Has instead gone for the Rekindler and the Commander Ladros. And I feel like Ladros has not been as popular since we saw the Alpha Wild Claws start to come out of this list.
Oh, man. I'd love to see that, too.
That could have just been because we only saw it in the side deck format where people were probably siding the Commander Ladroses along with that Revitalizing Aura. So I guess we'll have to track how much all of that continues to stick around in these sort of standard quote-unquote tournaments, though I am curious to see sort of the long game for this. For example, we've got this patch coming up next week, right? And they've basically confirmed a couple of nerfs to both Lee Sin and Make It Rain, but War Mothers and Freljord Shadow Isle is a regional combination that's been dominant for about as long as Noxus Bilgewater. If we are starting to take a look at that combination for a nerf, do we do the same thing with Shadow Isle Freljord?
I mean, I don't know. Possibly. I know Shadow Isle's Freljord is incredibly strong. It's been strong since the inception of the game. They just have so many. Shadow Isle's especially seems like it has an option to get rid of everything, right? Yeah. And then we even added Crumble. Like, we needed that, right? Even though that hasn't really even seen any play as of yet. I'm imagining that's going to be useful in the future. But unfortunately, Gavone, what is Gavone doing? No Alpha Wild Claw, man. I've been loving this card as of late, and no Alpha Wild Claw in the deck. What is this? This is unbelievable. Oh, Gavone, disappointing. disappointing. So let's see. We got another Trundle off the top for now an Icequake if we need it. But this is going to push through a little bit of damage. And against a deck like They Who Endure, I mean, any damage matters, right? That's closer to 0 means that's, less attack that you have to go ahead and put on top of your They Who Endure. So this looking to send Gavone down to 15 right now. Of course, we do see that Gavone has some heal in hand. We do have the Vile Feast, and I'm sure there's some other stuff in the deck. Looks like we, on top of the 3 Catalyst of Aeons, we have Withering Wail, and 2 Unspeakable Horror, as well as the 3 Vile Feast. So plenty of heal in case we do take a little bit of damage, and I believe that's why we're holding back the Vile Feast for the time being.
I just realized that this means that Fiora Soraka got banned.
Oh. Which,
to be fair, does seem like the most anti-aggro deck in my opponent's lineup, so I definitely get it. Yeah, because this, like, War Mothers is very coin flippy versus aggro. Like, either aggro draws what aggro needs to draw, and War Mothers doesn't draw the AoE or heal, or it does, like we're seeing, and it's probably going to win the game. Especially in this case, I mean, there are 2 flash frees, so there are ways to deal with an Atrocity on a They Who Endure. We haven't seen any drawn yet by Gavone, but plus the Vengeance, as we now see in hand. So lots of ways around this Atrocity combo. So if Seu Cristo can't kind of aggro Gavone down early here, which it doesn't look like is going to happen after this Avalanche, it's going to be a long game for Seu Cristo. I think right now he was considering, do I actually Battle Rage anything to get it to survive this Avalanche? But that would be a little wild. Is going to get a Spiderling and an Escaped Abomination for his trouble, though, as well as a couple of draws. Picks up some fearsome blockers, but this is not really the matchup where these are the most effective cards in the world.
Yeah, I got to agree. This looks so good for Gavone. It's such a comfy position as a War Mothers player to be in, like in this spot. You're like, yeah, I got a few big units. I got more mana than you. I can just do whatever I want. I don't really have to worry much. And I think that's kind of the spot that Gavone's in right now. Not only that, we have all the removal in the world in hand right now, on top of probably playing War Mothers next turn. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, not in the slightest. Gets the pillar down. Now the Trundle's leveled. It's just another big issue for Sue to try to get through. And now we do find ourselves in that situation that we constantly do with the Endure decks of we're just sitting around waiting for War Mothers. It feels like lately Legends of Runeterra has become so about singular cards in a deck. You know, the Lee Sin, the They
Atrocity.
Who Endure, the Atrocity, or the
Hmm.
War Mothers. Like, there are just so many
Yeah.
single cards that completely swing, you know, the tide of a matchup. Riptide Rex and Leviathan as well. Just, I don't know. And there's not a whole lot of draw power to get us there. It does feel like these players are constantly just organically drawing into it. And it feels unlucky in the games that you don't. But
Hmm.
statistically, you're not going to see it.
What I will say is I think Riot's done a good job of having only the cards that are later game cards feeling like that, which makes sense, right? A later game card should feel like the pinnacle card in the gameplay. On turn 8, you should feel like if you have Riptide in your hand, that is a good turn 8 play to use all your mana on turn 8. So I personally don't mind that. And I feel like, I mean, War Mothers speaks for itself. It's freaking 12 mana. I mean, that's a lot of investment for such a high payoff. And even Atrocity, like, although Atrocity is less at 6 mana, you do have to combo it with a larger unit. And ever since, I love that They Who Endure nerf they did so long ago. Imagine, just think if They Who Endure costed 6 mana, everybody. Let's just imagine that for a second. That was way more broken, I think, than we gave it credit for when that was originally a thing.
I think 6 mana Endure was fine. I always wanted to see a nerf on Atrocity because it was in so many different Shadow Isle decks. And I mean, it's been a key part of the War Mothers deck ever since it rose back into prominence with the release of Call of the Mountain.
Yeah, no, I got to agree. Atrocity has been a pretty consistent problem as a win condition. So we'll see if they end up doing anything. But okay.
So the Battle Rage to defend our Glimpse Beyond is not how I expected that card to get used.
Wait. Am I missing something?
Are you?
Did I? Wait, that.
Are you good? Did you figure it out?
No.
The Battle Rage was used to secure the Glimpse Beyond because a Withering Whale was going to
kill
the unit.
Oh, the Withering Whale was played in response to the Glimpse Beyond. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was like trying to save it from his own glimpse or something. I was like, wait, why did we play this Battle Fury? But okay, that makes a lot more sense. But that's still pretty bad.
Especially given that, like, you have no answer for this Trundle. Now that your Battle Rage is gone. Previously, you could just Battle Rage up whatever that was attacking, but now just really needed to get the draw. Is just really looking for this Endure, and I don't think it works out for him. I don't think it's big enough to survive the Vengeance. And, you know, you play the Endure, sure, you attack. I Vengeance it, you Atrocity me in the face. If I'm not dead at the end of that, then I just kill you on the following turn. And I do not think we are anywhere near this Endure being up to a 16-16. It'd even have to be an 18-18 because there are 2 healing spells in Gavone's hand.
And as far as Seu Cristo is concerned, it needs to be a 20-20 because there's plenty of other heal in the deck as well. So, yeah, this is definitely looking bad for Seu Cristo. We are going to get 5 damage punched through here, though. So that is a huge help if there is some sort of top-decked They Who Endure that comes out soon. But we also see a Vengeance. And a Ruination even. Now, I don't imagine we'll get the Ruination quite yet, especially with how big of a board Gavone's developed by now. That feels kind of bad. You kind of wish your Trundle died all of a sudden.
Oh no, I have a 7/7.
Yeah. How dare you, War Mothers, only getting us a free 7/7. Jesus. What's wrong with this card? What a bad card.
I think now we are in a situation though where it is real. This is not... Yeah, pick up that Vile Feast.
Yeah. That one's not enabled yet.
Yeah, now we are in a situation where I think that the Endure is a realistic win con. Let's see if the Stalking Shadows can pick it up.
And yeah, and Stalking Shadows, basically the reason why this deck is still so prominent right now. Such a great card. And wow.
Able to, 2 Ravenous Butchers, about as ugly as it gets.
Oh boy. And Unspeakable Horror, okay. So this is huge as well from Gavone being able to deny this Glimpse Beyond, because if there hasn't been a They Who Endure drawn, Seu Cristo I don't really think wins this game from here because we would need it on the very next turn. Even right now on 6 mana, can't play it this turn either. So not much that Seu Cristo can do outside of top decking a very large They Who Endure, which we haven't. I mean, I don't have it tracked. I don't know if you know what it's at right now, Boulevard, but I don't think it's big enough.
I think it might be a 10-10. It's kind of hard to say. Once one Blighted Caretaker comes down, things start to accelerate faster than I tend to organically keep up with. But because he doesn't have Endure Atrocity mana on the same turn. If you play this Endure next turn, it immediately gets Vengeance. The game is over. You're not going to be able to play it the turn after that because Chad's going to kill you on an open attack that turn. So I think at this point, Endure is just too late.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. You know, you will be able to just chump block it down, and plus the Vengeance, you know, which I do think you save the Vengeance until the Atrocity actually comes out. So
no, your opponent doesn't have Atrocity Vengeance mana or Atrocity Endure mana next turn.
No. I'm saying, like, let's say Endure gets played now, and then you attack with the Endure, and it somehow lives, and then it passes back over. But now none of that matters because there's a flash freeze too. So it's
I mean, even without the flash freeze, I don't think the mana didn't work out unless you were going into this turn specifically with 13 mana, because otherwise you die on the open attack.
Well, it looks like Gavone is going to pick that one up there, so we are going to go ahead and go to a game 3. And I just realized I totally forgot that Seu Cristo is also streaming. So I am.
Oh yeah, I've been watching from his perspective mostly.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get another hand in here for a second.
Seu Cristo is a couple seconds behind Gavone, but it's not going to matter too much.
Oh, actually, I thought I had a 2-hand set up for this, but I do not. So by the time I get it set up, it'll be like halfway through the game. So
I gotcha.
All right, so it does look like we have Elise Nocturne again with this They Who Endure deck, and then this Lee Sin deck, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of pulling for this Lee Sin deck. Like, I want to see it win just because I'd like to see a different version of Lee Sin, mainly out of curiosity, right? Because when we look at cards that decks have pillared around, such as Ezreal was splashable in every single deck. Lee Sin doesn't feel like that.
Nope.
It's literally just been like Targon Lee Sin, and if we are able to start splashing it in other decks as well, I think that just kind of amplifies the problem that is Lee Sin right now.
I don't know. I think this deck is a great sort of argument point for why we don't see Lee Sin in other lineups. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that it is so much commitment to actually get the barrier onto your Lee Sin and get use out of him as an anti-aggro tool for the early game, I think just speaks a lot to why we only see him in Targon when you do get those gems and those free gem generators. And just these burst spells and things like that. It is, I mean, giving your opponent like 4 or 5 priority sequences before you actually end up attacking with the Lee Sin for turn doesn't feel great. And it's just such a mana committed strategy. Like, you don't often get turns where you have that additional spell mana.
Looks like we are going to go with the red card. Seems to make sense here. Also allows the TF to get in a quick attack if he wants, because this Elise will get put down, to 2 health as well. And we are going into a turn where now it looks like we might be able to get this Lee Sin off as far as the barrier and the challenger are concerned. So we'll see if that's what we're headed towards here on probably the next attack turn, which will be turn 6, where we'll have a little bit more mana to do so. Yeah, this deck, looking at these spells in this Lee Sin Twisted Fate deck, like, the biggest problem I think here is most of these are reactive, or conditional, right? Whereas the gems, you could literally just, you could literally play a gem and not heal anything, or just play it on a random unit and just not care. Because you didn't lose card advantage playing a gem, because they usually were given via Mentor of the Stones or whatever. With these, we have things like Nopify in this deck, Steel Tempest, pick a card. Nopify and Steel Tempest are reactive. It's based on what your opponent is doing, so you can't actively play that and try to attack with Lee Sin. And then you have something like pick a card, where you only want to play that if you know you have enough mana to spend all your cards next turn, because you don't want to lose any of the fleeting cards. So it just puts yourself in a really awkward position every turn of, how do I actually activate Lee Sin without using cards that I don't really want to use right now?
Yeah, like right now, if Gavone wants to get barrier, it's going to cost him at least 6 mana.
Yeah. And, maybe that's the initial idea Riot had when they designed the card. They're like, it's not going to be that easy to get barrier every turn. And then they release gems, and they're like, oh, well, that's the thing.
Well, one of the other interesting things, just talking about the deck building decision behind it, is there are some decent 0 and 1 mana spells in Bilgewater Ionia, especially if you're looking to play anti-aggro. Health Potion, Parlay, Warning Shot. You could have gone for a nab package in a deck like this. Instead, you just went for the Tasty Feyfolk and the Eye of the Dragon. It was a deck building consideration, and it is not one that has impressed me thus far, both in paper and in practice.
Yeah, I got to agree. The choice to put 2 Lee Sin as well as 2 Eye of the Dragon, you kind of, I mean, if you start the deck and you're like, all right, I'm going to start with these 6 cards, your next thought should be, I think anyways, all right, how do we get some cheap, easy spells in here? And I mean, yeah, sure, we have Make It Rain, which is great. And Twin Disciplines, which is okay at 3 mana, but the other one, I mean, Concussive Palm is one that you could technically play proactively as well as Salvage. It's just kind of weird. And actually, to add on top of that too, which we forgot, was Deep Meditation. We see one in Gavone's hand as well, and that also you don't necessarily need to play 2 spells, but kind of helps just a little bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And looks like pick a card on the Notify. Makes sense. We got 2 of those. Don't need that. We'll see what we draw next turn. And so we are seeing what I was just saying in that we are playing the pick a card kind of proactively here. And now that we're playing the Twin Disciplines, I mean, personally, I think it feels a little bit bad that we're not going to have full spell mana going into next turn because of those 3 fleeting cards. But, you know, at the end of the day, we are killing this Nocturne. We are utilizing this barrier. So here we go. There it is. There's the successful 2 spells barrier, but it is 6 mana, like you said earlier, Boulevard.
Yeah, we did it. Now, how do we deal with this Endure next turn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that card. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Like one step at a timing this, and it's like, well, you know, there's like a 20 attack unit coming down on the following turn, so
Wait, is that what did that? Oh, was that? Okay, never mind.
Warden Spray.
Yeah, it's from the Warden Spray. I was like, wait a second. Ephemerals still aren't good. What is this deck?
Oh. Look, I've thought about putting the Shark Chariot in the in the Endure in the past, just because between Stalking Shadows and Bladed Caretaker, you definitely have a lot of organic ephemeral in the deck.
Yeah, but then you remember that it can't block.
Yeah, and you remember that. What does that extra 1 really add to my Endure?
I honestly, if they just allowed that card to block, it would be infinitely better and not even close to like broken at all. Like they should just let it block. Like, all right, this card's useless. At least I can save some health by blocking with it. Like, you know. Oh man, but we are gonna go ahead and draw more to go ahead and level up this TF. Going into these extra fleeting cards too. So this turn might actually end up being quite good for Gavone here, especially with these 2 saplings. A red card you gotta think is gonna come out at some point. And we even have the Steel Tempest as an activator here fleeting.
Here's my problem with the Twisted Fate in this deck. It's the same problem as the Lee Sin. All of your cards are expensive. The odds that Gavone can actually get to a gold card and still have mana for the deny on the Atrocity is not the highest. He does have this Steel Tempest. Great. He's losing that at the end of the turn alongside this Eye of the Dragon and the Salvage. So he does still have 1 stun left. I think he's only going to have at most 11 mana going into the following turn. Actually, he's throwing out the stun right now in order to get a red card online in combat with the Steel Tempest. So I actually am pretty surprised that he threw the Concussive Palm onto that, since it is something that's going to be getting cleaned up by the red card.
I think he was running out of time, and I think he just kind of accidentally threw it on that, because I think you almost always go ahead and put it on something like the Bark Beast or...
That would have been my thought, either the Bark Beast or the Elise.
Yeah, maybe the Elise just to avoid the token coming out, but instead going to go with the Sapling, which will die to the red card eventually. Now, all right, I will say, as I'm seeing this deck play out, now that we have the leveled Twisted Fate, and Lee Sin seems to be generating barriers, so it's not impossible. Maybe this deck it seems like it could be very good in the late game, because you do have, because the curve of these spells is a lot higher. They are a lot more powerful. They do give you a lot more draw. They give you a lot more resources, like playing the 3 salvage, 3 meditation. Maybe that's what this is. It's just, if we are able to make it to the late game, this deck just wrecks. So we'll see if that's the case here against this They Who Endure. But like you said, They Who Endure Atrocity right now, we need to be keeping open this deny mana, and right now we haven't been able to do that, but we also haven't had a They Who Endure hit the field, so we're okay for the time being.
So we do get down another Caretaker, but this is fine. We do still have the Steel Tempest to go ahead and take out the Sapling that is challenging the Lee Sin. We'll get to kill this Bark Beast as well, so I think you just... Yeah, you're only taking 2 damage this turn. Not going to hate the situation that you're in, but you do still have to find another stun for that Endure a little bit later on, and you still have to win the game through it.
And what? Wait, what?
What? He's protecting the.
Oh, okay. Okay. I don't know why I thought red card was coming out next.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just got confused on what card was coming out. So.
Look, it's not often that we see a leveled Twisted Fate and then the game go on for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
I know that we've seen it happen a lot. We are a little bit used to casting it at this point, but I mean, I definitely don't blame you. Like 2-3 turns into the TF being leveled, we're forgetting where we are in terms of cards coming out, especially with combat getting in the middle of things.
Well, you know what the worst is when, and I know players can sympathize with this, when you're putting multiple TF cards on the stack. You really have to take time and think, all right, what is triggering first? What is triggering last? Like, it's painful sometimes to figure that out.
So, if Endure comes down this turn, I'm pretty sure Gavone just wins. Just because the next 2 cards will be red to kill the Elise and then gold to stun the Endure, I'm pretty sure you win with the open attack. Especially with his Twin Disciplines in hand.
Yeah, no, I got to agree. And there's a Bark Beast that's not Endure.
That just dies to the red card.
Yeah, there is still 7 mana for Seu Cristo, so it is very possible we see the Endure come down here in a second as well. We'll see. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if we just do it. No, I think you can always attack.
I really like deep medding for the red card. Yeah. And now if Endure comes down, we have Twin Disciplines to end the game.
So, you know what I do hate a little bit here is that you can't get the red card actually starts a stack, so you cannot actually do something like deep med and then the red card goes off and then you can go ahead and attack there right after the red card goes off, which I actually do like that. I think it makes it a little balanced. I think that would be kind of nuts busted if you were able to attack after that.
I have run into problems where I have a level Twisted Fate and I want to Warning Shot into Riptide Rex, but the Warning Shot triggers a blue card. And then priority goes back to my opponent, and I'm like, oh no, I really just wanted to play this Riptide first.
Yep, it feels really bad when that specific interaction happens, actually. I think that's probably, that exact interaction is probably what led to people even figuring out that happened. Like, that's, like, one day somebody lost priority on the Riptide, and they're like, this is how Twisted Fate works. So.
All right, we are representing not quite lethal damage just yet. We do get it with the Twin Disciplines if we want to go for that. And it looks like we will. And, I mean, Seu doesn't have an answer for this. He has 4 They Who Endure in hand.
Yeah, I can't... Is there even anything... No, and like, Atrocity could be an answer where there's no followers or units at all on the field. And, yeah, this is just going to be game right here.
And, I mean, he could have played a unit here to just have a blocker, but, I mean, it still would have... No unit would have done it because the gold card comes out next. So, I mean, there's no way that Seu could have played that this works out for him, other than... I guess trying to Atrocity one of his dying units into the Twisted Fate.
And it looks like, I don't know if Seu actually went offline or not there, because I did see that notification pop up, and it might just be a disconnection problem. Either that or he surrendered and the game didn't recognize it, got messed up or something. So we'll see. This might take a second for Gavone to officially get the win here, but it does look like we are going for lethal, and this will be game. And at the end of the day, hey, we kept, kind of crap talking the whole multiple spells thing with this deck, and we do have a leveled Lee Sin and a leveled Twisted Fate on the field at the same time. It did happen. So I'm very curious to see how well this deck does as it continues on in the tournament. And I don't know what Gavone is doing. I can't remember right now. Is he throwing cards? Is that interaction?
I don't know. He's dancing or something. So, I mean, this is a matchup that has very little interaction. This is one of the few decks where a TF level up is actually going to work out. And I think that's just kind of what we saw here is, just a lack of interaction on the side of the Endure Spider player, which is pretty typical for the archetype.
Okay, yeah, so, all right. Yeah, Celine in chat said he's being TF throwing cards. That's kind of what I thought in my head. I just didn't know if I nailed that one or not. So we are, but... All right, and Gavone going to take the W there over Seu Cristo. So going to go, we have 5 rounds of Swiss and then immediately cut the top 4 all in one day for this particular tournament. So we got, what is that? I can't do math a lot of the time. 3 more rounds plus top 4. Let's go. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you turn on the bell for the notifications this week when these videos go live. And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.